and welcome. This is Top Rope Talk. I'm your boy Denzel Snipes, and this is the Pundit, Jacob Christner, right next to me. I'm the sniper, he's the pundit, and we are about to get it on with some recap talk because last night was a pretty outstanding pay-per-view put on by AEW. Usually I know some people said World's End was a little disappointing, but I think they actually more than made up for it this time. So this is going to be the recap episode to last night's AEW Revolution 2024. But before we get started, how's it going, partner? How you doing?
Not bad at all. All I'm thinking about is we're going to get this show, but after this one, I'm going to be thinking of 100 different ways to try to be the Bears GM.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. On a quick, we usually have a finish or DQ every single week. Well, we're gonna do something a little different, and that is when we get to the main event from last night's pay-per-view, which was Sting's final match. We're gonna have myself and my colleague here just give our thoughts on Sting's career, much like last week when we gave our thoughts on Macho Man Randy Savage's career. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get the festivities started. As a matter of fact, where did my... Oh, now see, that's not even right. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. All right. So, technical difficulties over with. Boom! AEW Revolution was last night. So was Sting's final match. Going into his quote-unquote second retirement, I guess you could say, because everyone remembers he was his stint in WWE. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2015. He had a match at WrestleMania 31 against Triple H. And if you remember, Jacob, it was less Sting versus Triple H and more uh, WWE versus the NWO / WCW. Like it was the late 90s powers kind of coming together. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and yes, absolutely. And I look at Sting on that poster, and you and I have talked about Flair and Hogan. They both had
Uh-huh.
6 different decades on posters.
Oh, yeah.
6 different decades on posters in some which way. Both of them did. I mean, Hulk was the thing because he did that. He was on one of those posters for that Saudi Arabian deal when he was Flair.
With him and
So
Flair,
it's
yep.
like, yeah, so that's 6 different decades. Sting has 5 himself.
Yeah.
Sting has 5 different decades himself. That
39-year
is
career.
not going to happen again. I'm saying this, these levels of these things, the way people want to use for their different, like Hollywood, their different things, get all that kind of stuff like that now.
Exactly.
We're not going to see that again. So enjoy this while we can, you know?
Yep. And you know what? And you heard it here first. In fact, no, you've heard it before, so I'm going to say it again. Roman Reigns is a prime example. Hell, even The Rock did it. Even The Rock only had maybe a 6 or 7 year run, like when he was a full timer. You know, so you're right. You're not gonna get like 39, 40-year runs again. These guys are trying to preserve their bodies. They're trying to make their money and then go elsewhere into like other businesses, TV shows. Look at what the Miz is doing. You know, movies. They're going to Hollywood. So yeah, absolutely. John Cena, The Rock. I mean, you name it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you're right. But think about this for a second. When we bring up those guys, they were bumping in boxing rings.
Yes, they were.
They were bumping in boxing rings that still got 4-decade careers, 3-4 decade careers. It's
And
like that's ridiculous. Those boxing rings are ridiculous.
yeah, and they're in much nicer facilities. The WWE Performance Center. I'm pretty sure AEW has a high quality one and everything. These dudes, they were practicing in barns.
I know.
You know, in like old rickety, shaky rings. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and that was cool that Sting got to go out to win. You know what I mean?
He did. Yeah, he did. Absolutely. Well, we'll start off with our first match here. We'll go through most of the matches. And it's the AEW Continental Championship. 3-belt Kingston retains against Bryan Danielson and finally earns his respect. But you know, with as long as Bryan Danielson's been in AEW, and there are people speculating that his time may be running short also. This time for good. Is time running out for Danielson to hold gold in AEW?
Yeah, but why does that matter? He held the biggest one in the biggest company. And even if it wasn't that long, but it's like the thing about that match is I can say this part. It was what it was. But they show that sequence over and over and over and over, again, where it looks like Eddie's absolutely gassing,
Yeah,
while he's getting out of it. And Danielson's always Danielson. He's never good. He wouldn't gas out if he tried to gas out.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like,
Danielson is the lost graduate of the dungeon. Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, and that's what you couldn't get him, but it's like, but it looked like, and you look at that sequence, and that's what makes WWE forever like the Walmart of the thing. I'm not saying based off of the people. If I talk about the longevity of his length, what I'm saying, it's continuously building, and it's because the higher expectations of everything. It's like
Yeah,
you could not. Vince is gone now, but Triple H is there to take over that thing. You show that sequence there, and he's ending it. So would Vince.
yeah,
The match is over. You're not embarrassing that company like that with that kind of a sequence.
right.
It's like Bryan Danielson had never had that in that level at that thing, and that's the point of it. It's like those two in WWE would be more amazing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah, and they would. It's just, and you know what the thing is with Eddie Kingston is you don't have this fear. Like, remember how whenever someone moved up from NXT to the Raw or SmackDown, and there was that worry that Vince was going to ruin him. Why? Because he had a track record of taking a hot NXT star and absolutely ruining him once they get to Raw or SmackDown. But now you no longer have that fear. So if Eddie Kingston were to cross over to WWE, I wouldn't have that fear that he would be ruined. I think they'd have to market him right. They gotta market him as some sort of like street brawler, like Kingston versus Solo Sikoa would be a damn
Yeah.
good match.
Oh no question. But it's like, see, that's the one thing that I give. Like I can say this. It's like because it came over to Triple H now. Triple H has a different viewpoint. The thing I give him credit with Vince, give that is you got to remember you got to remember the Rock and Hogan match and stuff like that. They says you got to bring it. They
Yeah,
get to the old man. You got to bring it. That was the legend. They said you have to bring it now. And they meant it. And it's like, will you go over there? And this is to this day. This is to 2015. This is to 2018. This is anything. You got to bring it, and you have to bring it. And it's like, I don't feel it. AEW is fine, and AEW is. There's nothing wrong with saying this. It's a glorified indie, but it's a really big one.
it's WCW from the late '90s 2.0.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's a different. See, there's just not a high expectations, and it is the friends kind of having fun, but you don't have the highest of expectations and get. No matter what you had with CM Punk and everything, CM Punk was going to get worn out with it. He was used to a level in WWE, no matter how much pissed off he was.
Right.
I mean, remember he had there was that thought process that Cena was nothing. He found out wrong.
Yeah.
There was an expectation there. There was that thought process that it was nothing with Lesnar, and he thought that wrong.
Yeah.
Then he goes to AEW, and it's like it's buddies having fun, and it's like no. I think he went back to WWE because there's an expectation there.
There is, and then you've alluded to how like people in WWE were overall much bigger than
Yeah.
the ones than AEW. So if a Lesnar were to go to AEW, he'd
Oh.
easily be a giant.
Oh. I said Jake the Snake Roberts. I've met Jake the Snake. I've stood next to the guy. I'm 6'3". He's tall. He's taller.
He's a legit 6'4", 6'5", isn't he?
Yeah, he is 6'4", about 6'4" now. I think he has a bad foot or something and his back and stuff like that. But he's still 6'4". He's still an inch taller than me. And I'm saying he looked like Mammoth in that ring next to Cody.
Yeah.
And Edge did too. Imagine Randy Orton, who looks big in WWE.
Oh, he'd be huge in AEW. Like,
oh my God,
you put Orton against like a Orange Cassidy or something like that. Like,
it would look like Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
It would look like Andre the Giant, but Andre the Giant that can move, and that'd be scary.
It would. It would be scary.
And forget it in AEW with Brock. I mean, Brock dominates these athletes.
Mm-hmm.
He dominates these athletes. I mean, every time you showed him against like Seth Rollins and everything, Seth Rollins is an upper echelon athlete, and he's keeping up with him.
Yeah, of course.
He's keeping up with him, and it's like, what would he do with these kids?
Yeah, that is quite the question right there. But We'll move on to our next matchup, and that is our 8-man All-Star Scramble. So Wardlow talked the talk, and he walked it, and he showed everyone who he was, who the hell he was, by defeating Powerhouse Hobbs, Dante Martin, Lance Archer, Chris Jericho, Hook, the FTW champion, Magnus, and Brian Cage. Speaking of a guy that has the size to cross over to WWE, I'd put Brian Cage out there. But back to Wardlow. Will Wardlow finally capture AEW top gold? He's been a multi-time TNT champion. Do you see him capturing it at least before 2024 ends?
Yes, I do, and it's better that he stay there because you want to. They have a better Wardlow in WWE. It's called Braun Breaker.
Yep.
And Braun Breaker, he's a better version, and Wardlow's good, but remember, there's levels.
Oh yeah.
And Wardlow can get his way, and he can get. And you got to remember, he's a giant in AEW himself. But it's I guarantee you get him.
Huh? Wardlow goes about 6'3", 270.
And yeah, and it's and that's normal in WWE. That's the big issue. But here's my thing with Wardlow. It's why I hate bodyguard gimmicks. This is the thing, when they had the little storyline with MJF.
Well, yeah. To slightly counter your point, probably the best bodyguard in WWE history went on to become a Hall of Famer, Batista.
Well, Nash, but true. Also, you're right.
And Nash also, yeah. But as bodyguards, I'd put Batista over Nash. But I'm a huge Nash fan.
Oh, no. You're correct on that. But what I'm saying is that by itself, at least they got to be able to get work. Oh, this was where I'm talking about. It's the logic behind it. My point, as far as the idea of bodyguard or whatever, when they say it, why do you need a bodyguard if you can beat him up? If you can get him down, why do you need the idea of a bodyguard in the first place? You're the money. He's the muscle.
Yeah,
and that's the whole point. I kind of got a kick out of Virgil with WWF with DiBiase because DiBiase was four times bigger than he was.
He was. Now Virgil had size on him too, and he could fight.
But he
didn't have the skill as
he was short. But he was short though. That was my point. He was short. And it was short and muscular, which truthfully I would use that in as a door guy at a club before I would use a big dude because he'll never wear out.
Well, I mean, speaking of Solo Sikoa, Solo's about what, 5'11"?
Dude, I would use my buddy Trevor Eon. I'd use Solo Sikoa. I'd use these guys at the door all day at any of my nightclubs over the big 6'8" guy.
If you really look at Solo, he's built like Tyson, just not as cut and defined.
But I've always told my buddy that's a wrestler, Trevor, he's 5'10", but he's 205, 210. I'd use these guys, I'd use Solo, I'd use those guys at a bar, at a door I'd use them at a door over 6'8", 6'9", because, okay, you use that, you can throw it out. If there's a fight at all, the 6'8", 6'9" guy's going to gas.
Oh, yeah.
These guys can go all day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
they can go all day long, and I want all day long for my bodyguards, not look.
Yeah, true. But you know what the thing is they did a great job elevating Wardlow from that bodyguard role into his own. He's coming to his own, and I know it appears that he looks like he's underneath somebody else now as far as Adam Cole. Now, do I think that may lead into another Wardlow face turn? Because I don't think Wardlow's going to want to give up that world championship. Because in the words of Adam Cole, Wardlow's going to win the title. He's going to hand it to me. We all know.
Of course, we already know what's going to happen there.
We kind of know
every storyline ever.
Yeah, so, but yeah, more to come on that one. Meanwhile, congrats to Wardlow. He went out there and showed the reason why he is Wardlow. And now on to our next matchup. And you cannot deny, you could watch these two 5-6 times a week. But the Blackpool Combat Club, the tag team of Moxley and Claudio, they defeated FTR in a pretty blockbuster match. But where does FTR go from here? Because, it was about a year ago that these guys they held 3 tag team championships at once. You know what I mean? Including the AEW World Tag Team titles. So, I mean, where should they go from here? I'm not saying break them up. No. Don't do that, But, and maybe I should mention this later. as far as the AEW World Tag Team Championship goes, and there's probably going to be a tournament for something, but I'll get to that later. But where should FTR go from here? And also, your thoughts about the tag team of Moxley and Claudio?
Let me say this, and I mean every bit of this here. I normally, when you're watching wrestling, you always go back to Crockett, like just to watch old stuff. You go back to old. You'll go back, and if you watch WWF, you're watching Heart Foundation versus Brainbusters. You're watching that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to just watch random matches and stuff,
Oh yeah,
you
Heart
want to
Foundation versus Demolition. Yeah,
yeah. How many times outside of maybe a Cody and Dustin, like from AEW, or their little or their I don't know if that was AEW at the time, but then their pay-per-view.
yeah.
Outside of that, how many times do you go to new matches and just watch it over and over?
Oh
That's
yeah,
this will remind you of 1988.
yeah. Of course.
Claudio and Moxley versus FTR. That's old school. That
Yes.
mindset is old school with a flashier deal, of course. But it's
Yeah.
but with a flashier thing, they do enough moves where they do enough moves where it's this year.
Yeah.
But the selling and the ability is completely 1988.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with a team like FTR, who was a revival in WWE. These guys aren't very tall guys either, but consistently they've proven they are like in the top 5 or 10 tag teams, like in the business. I had them as a top 10 or 5 rather when they were in WWE. It's something about Dex Harwood and I'm off the top of my head. I can't remember the other guy's name. Dex Harwood and oh Jesus Christ.
I've got it either, but let me say this. I will absolutely say this, man. I believe when their time comes up, they're coming back to WWE. It's Triple H now.
Yeah.
I think we're going to start seeing some
Cash
people.
Wheeler, that's his name.
Cash Wheeler, okay.
Dex and Cash, yep.
But let me tell you this. I absolutely believe they're coming back. There is no Vince to stop this BS. There's no Vince put them in 8-man tags for 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
None of this. You will see them. They've gone. See, one great thing about AEW, you got to remember when he started AEW, when Dustin and all of them started AEW and all that kind of stuff. It is the idea of we're going to do this for us.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do this for us. We're going to get it, and we're going to. And there is that. It is that little bit of an indie, but you don't. No one tells them what to do. It's why we have sideline.
Yeah.
No one tells them what to do, and you get all this. But you want to know it allowed them to get FTR to go do what they want to do, and then you get matches like this.
Yep.
And then
exactly.
what happens? Vince is gone. Meanwhile, there are tag teams coming in. Meanwhile, there is let's see. I'm trying to think. Shush. I'm trying to think.
Oh, Chad Gable.
Yeah, Chad Gable. Thank you. There's Gable and his buddy. There's those. I mean, there's just some amazing tag teams that you can get on this. Don't forget Imperium.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get that and bring it back with FTR. And those are the things. AEW is wonderful to wait it out while Vince is gone. And now there's going to be, you can get back to the big time eventually with some bigger names and a guy that cares.
Yes, absolutely. And so, with that being said, we'll move on to and not give them like a gimmick where their ass is itching because of some cream that Jericho or whoever gave to them. No more bad gimmicks. But
I mean, just get it,
So moving on to our AEW World Women's Championship, Timeless Toni Storm retained the World Women's Championship against Deonna Purrazzo. Is this rivalry over with, or will we see a sequel?
It really the rivalries in a place like AEW. It really depends. I mean, you don't know who gets called, or you don't know if there's an injury. I can't say that. I can't because we've answered this before, and the injuries hit. So injuries hit, or someone leaves. Yeah. So it just really depends on what the thing is right there. Good. Truthfully, though, it's like. I mean, when you watch a women's event on AEW, and I'm just being very honest because I pay so much attention to WWE's women. They're awesome. I don't pay that much attention to AEW's women because they all feel like Maxine.
Maxine.
WWE, Dupree.
Ah, okay.
And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying they're not better. I'm saying not saying they're not better because they would be that. I feel like Maxine will get better when she's in a better spot. She doesn't belong in the big time anyway.
Yeah.
She's going to get better in that way. But I feel like if Maxine was in AEW, she'd never get better.
Well, on Toni Storm's team, I think this was on. She's on Toni Storm, but there's a woman's wrestler signed there, Mariah May, who actually is pretty good. But when you look at her, she's a Tiffany Stratton clone, and I remember seeing her, and I was like, this is AEW's answer to Tiffany Stratton. Because let me tell you something, Tiffany Stratton is next. I want everybody at home to hear this, all right? Because Charlotte Flair may be running short on time. Once again, we're talking about preservation. We said it. You're not going to see 30 plus years in the ring anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and also considering the fact, I'm not saying that she doesn't like it, but remember, Charlotte Flair wasn't supposed to be a pro
That was
wrestler in
supposed
the
to be.
first
That was
place.
supposed to be Reed. That was
Supposed to be Reed Flair. She promised him at his casket that she would do it for him. You know, but
She's been around a lot longer than we thought.
Yeah, she was the final Divas champion. That joke of a title, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, her time may be running short. Tiffany Stratton is next. She's next. She is the next to be it. But
I love about Tiffany Stratton. The one thing I love about Tiffany Stratton is that when you look at Charlotte, it's like it doesn't feel like, unless you have Rhea Ripley, it doesn't feel like she should sell that much, is what I'm saying, compared to these other ones. Mm-hmm. Tiffany, you could have a Edge type match, like we remember Edge and Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Tiffany's not as huge. She's athletic and strong and everything, but it doesn't feel. It feels realistic to see a good long match. Mm-hmm. I see big guys, and I'm like, I don't know why is this. I'm realistic. I like to see realistic. And you see Tiffany Stratton, she's awesome, in the ring, amazing, and it's realistic that you can have a long match. I don't feel realistic with Rhea, unless she's great. Rhea's great, but with her size, with her muscle, don't feel it unless it's someone that's of the equal.
I mean, she put on a banger against Becky Lynch, which is not easy.
Becky is one of those where I believe.
Yes.
Becky's one of those I believe because for her size, she's got broad shoulders and athletic, and she has offense that matters.
Yes.
Becky's that. To me, it's like I said, but the Tiffany Stratton is one of those. I look at the Tiffany Stratton like I said, an Edge, Chris Jericho on the man side. Mm-hmm. It's like you look at them, it's like, okay, those two can go 45 back and forth. Yeah. It's Macho. Those two are Macho and Ricky Steamboat. Those two go back and forth to do everything. And that's what I said. I see a realistic match going to that thing. And when we're going all these generations, you see that. And you could see Becky and Tiffany Stratton in WWE, not just NXT.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do have to move on here because I want to save a little time for the final segment. But Will Ospreay made his debut as an AEW-signed wrestler, and him and Takeshita tore it down, in my opinion, match of the night. Ospreay got the victory. How fast can Will Ospreay get into AEW World Championship contention? Now, before you answer this question,
not long at all. Ospreay, I remember Ospreay watching. I watched all his. See, just like I watched Luka Doncic in Europe, like doing his thing before, so I knew about him before anything. That's why I wanted him in Atlanta, and I was disappointed when he went to Dallas. It's like why I wanted him because I watched a ton of his games like through YouTube and his highlights and everything. I watch the same with Ospreay. I love Europe. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I've seen him already. I already know. When I take one look at Ospreay, I already know he's awesome. And it fits. And he's not going to be long at all. I do want to see, if you want to see this with Danielson, I want to see Ospreay and Danielson.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so much because, from his time in New Japan, and of course he's a decorated champion in his own right, but having been he's the leader of the United Empire faction, along with Aussie Open, and he's a former NJPW United States champion and IWGP United States champion. But a guy like this, and now also keep in mind, you got no Adam Cole, You got no MJF.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, Joe cannot keep fighting Strickland and Page. So you got to throw some new guys in there.
I'll tell you this. One of the things I would do with that Joe and Strickland and Page, or the Strickland deal, the one thing I do, that is one of those where if it continues and they need to get people, have Joe win an absolute banger of a cage and be out for a bit just because of quote unquote injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the big guys come back, bring him back. When
Okay.
you get a Will Ospreay, when they're more developed, because it's like you gotta have a banger with that match. You gotta have one.
You have to. You have to, absolutely. So, with that being, speaking of the World Heavyweight Championship, great segue into our next to last topic, and that is the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. So, Samoa Joe successfully retained against Swerve, Strickland, and Hangman Adam Page. So, okay, I asked the question with Will Ospreay, right? So now we're going to Joe. We're putting it in Joe's hands. How far can Samoa Joe carry the company in the in-ring absence of Adam Cole and MJF?
You mean you said Samoa Joe, right?
Samoa Joe.
You do it right, plenty, but he's getting older. 2005, 2008, the Joe, forever.
Yeah.
I mean, forever. I mean, he was absolutely amazing, but age is undefeated.
That's true. Father
Age
time.
is undefeated. You can get. You got to realize they even did the match in WWE with Brock with a lot of chokeholds and a lot of everything like that. It's like both of them could have killed each other.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them truly could have killed each other. You got to remember. I mean, Brock ended Samoa Joe on 1 F5, which usually gets 4.
Yeah.
Which usually gets 4. It's like it's the same thing. I'd say 2005, 2008, Joe would have probably taken 5 of those and everything. I think it's just
X Division champion Joe.
Absolutely, and those are the points that I make with something like that. It's like it's age, and I love the Samoa Joe, and he's still a badass, but you don't want to overwear him out.
Yeah, totally agree with that one. And so, with that being said, it was an awesome match last night. Great performance by Swerve Strickland. Even Hangman Adam Page lost his mind and beat up the referee and everything. But and then great ending as well. Samoa Joe submitted Hangman Adam Page. So we'll see where to go from here to see if any one of them get a rematch. Will we see another Swerve versus Hangman rematch of some sort? But anyway, now for our
When
main
you watch
event.
Adam Page, real quickly, when you watch Adam Page, don't you just see him watching Shawn Michaels matches till the damn end of time on his off days?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You could just see it. It's just like just the movements, just the just like for instance, remember the ladder match with Razor Ramon, and he just subtly sticks his leg under that rope to hang himself to get him. Little things like that, so Razor could get the thing.
Yeah.
And everything like that. Adam Page does that stuff a lot in different ways.
Yeah, he does. He does. He does kind of. He has some elements of heartbreak now. Don't get it twisted. But
I mean, I think about Shawn Michaels. I'm like, dang it, he found the wrong time to get old, because I'm just saying he doesn't want to get hurt anymore. But just like the little subtleties he could still bring to a match.
Yeah,
Like just the little subtleties. I mean, he is to be one of the top 5 greatest in-ringers ever.
Oh yeah. Hands down. Down. And the crazy part is that ladder match probably solidified it way back when.
Oh, I think about that. The timing. Like after he hung his leg there's Scott Hall who's climbing and he's being there, but Scott Hall knows he's got to unhook himself, so he can easily play exhausted.
Yeah.
So he does that, and I mean, he catches the belts half a second before Shawn.
Yeah.
Perfect timing, and I'm like, that's just Shawn. It's like he could have left himself hung there. No one would have blamed him, but he just made that little bit. And I'm like, Adam does that too.
Yeah,
He does
yeah,
that
he
too.
does. Well, we got to go on to our final topic, and that is our main event. And rightfully so, it should have rightfully so it should have closed the event, and it did. So AEW World Tag Team Title match: Sting and Darby Allin retain versus the Young Bucks. In Sting's final match, Sting retires a champion. Actually, was his first captured gold since his days in TNA. So, just want to get your thoughts about this, especially what I thought was the bump of the night when Darby Allin came off that ladder crashing through that glass. And any of you all who hadn't seen that, go and draw that up and look at his back. Like, Darby Allin went straight up ECW 98 on him, man. It was crazy. But your thoughts on this match, and also just like last week, like you did with Macho Man, your thoughts on Sting's legacy.
The Sting legacy is, I mean, as far as Darby, he's going to die at 40. He just is. I mean, he's ridiculous. But it's like Sting says, "Oh, I was risky when I was a kid." Sting, the 25-year-old Sting, would not have gone through glass. I mean, he just wanted to make Darby feel good. But Sting, he could have had a lot less of a legacy, except he's Sting. He could have had that because he only got a cup of coffee. Cup of coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got that in WWE, and he still made his way. With his main thing, he's the Terry Funk of this era.
He is.
He made the companies like Terry Funk made ECW. He made two companies,
Mm-hmm.
AEW and Impact.
Impact, yep.
He made two companies. Sting did. He helped them. He helped them grow. He helped them build. And he's never going to have hate because he helped a small company build continuously.
He
And
did.
didn't mind everything. He's that way. He was very, very unselfish.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
that was the thing. And you want to know what the biggest thing was? It's the fact that he stayed in good enough shape. He doesn't jump like he used to. We don't expect him to.
Well, he's 63 years old.
Yes, yeah, of course. But you know something? He does. He jumped off the. He still can go off the top rope if he wants to. He can still do his thing if he wants to. He can still hit his spots. He can still hit his spots, take bumps. He can do all that. And I'm like, he's going, and this is probably his last match. Truthfully, he's not going to because he already seen what happened with Flair. He's not going to do this.
Yeah.
He's not going to do this. And it's like, and did you see? By the way, did you see Ricky Steamboat doing timekeeping?
Yes, I did, and he got involved as well. And also,
Doesn't he look like $1 million? Doesn't he look like $1 million?
Yeah, yeah, for his age. And also, one of the bright spots of the match was the involvement of Sting's sons. One son came out as early '90s Surfer Sting, and the other one came out as NWO Wolfpack Sting. Yo, the son that came out as Surfer Sting, he's huge.
No,
he's about as big as Sting was when he first started wrestling.
Yep, he looked like him. He looked like Sting then. I mean, he just looked ridiculous. He's a big boy. But you know something? You think about all of this. I was bringing up Steamboat because they talk about, Flair's 75 or whatever. Flair's his way because he's too much into the drinking and the life and he doesn't want to retire. He could be Steamboat.
Yeah.
Where if he would stop that, he could be Steamboat. Steamboat in his last match looked amazing.
Yeah.
He looked amazing. It was a 6-man. It was a 6-man, and Steamboat could have gone 7 minutes by himself.
Mm-hmm.
He still could move. He did skin the cat. He did all that stuff. He was 70 years old.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you can do these things if you take care of yourself. And it's like that's why Flair drives me nuts. It's like Flair drives me nuts. It's like, yes, I know you're living the life you want to live, but you're a child. And you're a child, and you want to be able to. You want to be 28 again. You can't. Yeah. The Steamboat knows he's 70. Doesn't want to try to make a big career, but look how he still does.
Yep. And with Sting, and Sting is walking away right now. Now, mind you, now Sting wrestled into his 60s, just like Flair did. Sting just looks a little better.
Sting, the Sting, what he did, what he's done, though, he's always taken care of. Sting's never been a giant drinker. Sting's always eaten clean.
Yeah.
He's always eaten clean. I think he got himself into DDP yoga a little bit after the fact when he was getting there, just to help him. And truthfully, I don't know what's going on with this thing with these companies. I hope that they are. Any company that doesn't have DDP Yoga on retainer
Oh yeah.
for everybody is ridiculous. I mean, the amount of years you could get out of your guys by not by saving injuries with that stuff.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, why? How come you don't have a company on retainer? Maybe he does, but I mean, I haven't heard it. Why wouldn't you have Why wouldn't you have him on retainer?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally
I
agree
mean,
with you. I
DDP.
mean, this DDP, this man has like saved lives before. Like, how many people have gone to him for recovery? Scott Hall's been one.
Jake the Snake was another.
Jake the Snake.
Chris Jericho busted his back up and went to him.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Just recently, Butterbean Esh, Eric Butterbean Esh just went to him, lost 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the dude, all that, and I'm like, this is the thing with it. Why wouldn't you use him for mental thing
DDP
and
is
stuff like
literally
that?
like the healthiest man in sports.
Yeah,
In pro wrestling. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's your mental health also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, but either way, Sting, love it. I mean, he went right. As I said, maybe he doesn't jump one he used to if he's 63 years old. Like I said, the minute they stop hitting their spots, we get that Flair match where where he passed out twice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the. And then you get Flair trying to get involved in that match in AEW, like during the AEW deal, and I mean, he could barely move against those guys.
Okay.
But you know, I'm talking about on AEW when he got loboed.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and he pokes an eye, and he tries to take a bat, and he gets low-blowed, and it's like, and his punches and his chops look terrible. He's not, and realize Stu Hart, 80 years old, couldn't move anymore, threw a better punch.
Yeah.
Remember Shawn Michaels?
A way better one.
He was 80 years old, couldn't even stand on his thing. He threw a better punch. That's telling you something.
Yeah, it is. Well, we have run out of time here, and I'd like to thank everybody who took the time to tune in to Top Rope Talk AEW Revolution 2024 Recap Edition. So stay tuned for, of course, more episodes from myself and my partner here. Next week's episode will be just a recap from around wrestling, but coming up here in a few weeks, in particular, the week before WrestleMania, we're going to try to have our guy Rafael Esparza, also at Sideline Sports, resident odds maker, to talk about. This is going to be the WrestleMania 40 preview episode. And we're also going to try to have our partner James Tatum on, in which WrestleMania 40 is taking place in Philadelphia. He just applied to get credentials to go and cover the event as well. He'll be attending in some form. So we're going to get him on the show as well to get his thoughts about it. But until then, I am the Sniper. He's the Pundit. And we will see you all next Monday. Later.